back in grassroots economy, enacting stiffer laws against capital flight, creating a national reward system for public officers who invest corrupt money into grassroots economy, rejigging the legal system to promote coexistence of dirty money and economic growth. A session you don't want to miss. But first, here's my take. Corruption is bad, and anything that steals from others of happiness, confidence, and dignity. And evil is bad, and anything that is dark steals from others of happiness, confidence, and dignity. Therefore, corruption degenerates and cancer in any form and in any society where it is found. But with decades of fighting this scourge through direct institutional confrontation, I am left to conclude that fresh thinking and brand new tactics is required to win the war on corruption. At this time, Nigeria, Africa, and the rest of the third world must stoop to conquer. We have to bend backward to see clearer, act stiffer, and achieve better goals ahead. Having set the ball rolling, let's establish the foundation for today's show. Massive corruption in Africa continues to cause degenerative underdevelopment on the continent. African countries have become the personal estates of official criminal gangs, whose avowed aim is not the development of their countries, but rather the siphoning of national resources into foreign banks. Official corruption siphons off money intended for the development of Nigeria, and by extension Africa. Apart from making a lot of profit on the interest on investment accruing from Nigeria's stolen billions, Western countries turn around and loan such money to Nigeria, sometimes as foreign aid, other times as loans at exorbitant rates. As a result, more money is spent to pay the interest on loans than on health, education, good roads, electricity, security, to say the least. But Nigeria, and indeed Africa, is not the only corrupt place on earth. Spectacular corruption in Indonesia, China, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan did not hold these countries back. The reason is simple. The critical issue in development is not whether corruption happens, but whether the dirty money stays in the country. The wisdom as shown by Asian countries I have listed, that massive corruption and economic growth can coexist if the dirty money is invested in the expansion of the country's productive assets at the grassroots. Take Mahathir bin Mohamad, who was the Prime Minister of Indonesia for 22 years, from 1981 to 2003. Under his leadership, today's Malaysia emerged as a regional financial, communication, and manufacturing hub. He drew up a series of Malaysian plans that set up middle-term goals and objectives over his 22-year regime. Today, Malaysia is an economy to reckon with in Southeast Asia. The country's economy continues to perform strongly, with higher than anticipated growth at 5.8% in 2017 and projected growth of 5.3% for 2018. According to the International Monetary Fund, the country is well on its way to achieving high income status. That is it for now. I will go on a short break. When I return, I will look into some of the benefits of investing corrupt money into grassroots economy. Stay with us.
Information remains the bedrock in every stage of development. It develops both the human mind and the society at large. Television Nigerian is here to avail you with that information you need for all-round development through its mind-blowing programs such as news, talk shows, health and safety, governance and politics, sports, entertainment, kiddies, documentaries, finance, global happenings, human disposition from childhood to adulthood, It's a manifestation of what you see, what you hear, and say. Tune in and stay tuned to TVN, Television Nigeria, broadcast beyond boundaries.
Thanks for remaining with me. Lower investment rates lead to lower economic growth, as growth is adversely affected, which in turn expresses itself in massive poverty at the grassroots. To change the trend, some experts believe that Nigeria and her government must come to terms with the fact that the time is now to change approach in fighting corruption. At this point, let's widen the conversation by inviting my guest, Solomon Adodo, who will join us in looking at how best can we take corruption away from media propaganda and away from institutional direct confrontation to grassroots economic development. He will join us shortly after this short interlude.
For almost a decade, the Nigerian army have given their all to ensure that our dear country is not overrun by Boko Haram insurgents. Some have in the process paid the ultimate price, while many will forever live with indelible scars occasioned by their determination to protect the country, no matter the hurdle. Despite these, they have remained resolute and undaunted, and today, all territories the insurgents once took control of have been recaptured and normalcy restored. And now, for the first time in a long time, the end of Boko Haram is foreseeable. Therefore, the wisest thing for the remaining insurgents to do is to surrender today or face total destruction from the army. Remember, the Nigerian army will stop at nothing to ensure that total peace is restored in all parts of the country. So, be wise and embrace peace today or get ready to be ruthlessly dealt with. This message is brought to you by the Coalition on Conflict Resolution and Human Rights in Nigeria.
Let's go straight into the meat of today's conversation. But first, let me introduce my guest to you, Mr. Solomon Adodo. He's a public activist, is it?
Civil rights.
A civil rights activist. Mr. Solomon, you are welcome.
Thank you very much.
The conversation on corruption is one that is as old as Nigeria. But most often the conversation is tailored towards direct institutional confrontation or media campaign. Today's show intends to look away from this angle and say, how do we invest corrupt money back in grassroots economy? Let's start with that. How do we do that?
All right, first, I want to thank you for having me on this show. And I will establish, without mincing words, that anybody who indulges in corruption or who is involved in corruption or who is corrupt, let me put it that way, is not in any way patriotic. And as we set the stage or the template for this discourse, I looked at how can we marry the North Pole and the South Pole? How can we marry the Arctic and Antarctica? You see, these are things that are not so easily feasible. You have somebody who is not patriotic, and then if you call on that individual and say, okay, invest in grassroots, that's a tall order. However, we need to look at it from certain prisms, having failed in the fight against corruption, because obviously we have failed. Corruption has been like a second skin to the Nigerian public service sphere. If you are not corrupt, you are seen as an alien. When you now become corrupt, then you are welcomed into the fold and you can now function properly. And just like you rightly established, most of these funds stick their way out of the country. It would even have been better if these funds were conserved within the country and if these funds were channeled into factors that will engender development, particularly at the grassroots. That is what we would have wished, even though in the first instance, it would have been better if these monies were not stolen at all. However, you now ask yourself, what is the psyche or the mentality or the motive of those who indulge in these corrupt practices? Someone who has amassed funds for his narcissistic pleasures will not easily want to invest such funds. Most of these individuals will prefer to stack these monies and be looking at it face to face. Most of them will want these monies to be in UK, in Seychelles, in America, and Mongolia, and other countries, in Panama, where you had the Panama Papers and all of that. They'll prefer the monies to be there so that they just shuttle for vacations and then pick up the next yacht and then they cruise and they go on. Now, we will also tell ourselves some salient truths if we say we want funds to be invested, whether clean money or whether dirty money. Has the environment been set in place? We always had this psyche that if you want to make progress, you go abroad. Once you travel to America, you're a big man. If you're coming back, a lot of expectations. If you go abroad to establish a business, the business will flourish. There is that mentality because they've set an environment for ease of doing business. So if we can make such environments here, I think anybody would want the worth of his money to grow in any system. So that's just that. But we must establish, like you have already done, that corruption is not a welcome development. But having put on this second skin, like the leopard that cannot change its spot, what do we do? If we want individuals to invest money, because for these individuals that are associated to be corrupt, it has not been established against them that they are corrupt. So if we want them to invest money, first, we should have an ambient business environment. We should also have an ambient tourism environment because they want luxury where they can spend their money. And then you now see that, like I said aforetime or at the onset, we cannot move from the head and get back to the tail. It will just be like the circling snake that turns around and bites itself in the tail. Because if you are talking about all of these things, then in the first instance, the monies that were stolen should have been used for good roads, should have been used for good health, should have been used for stable power that will make them enjoy the luxury of the land. So we are on the horns of dilemma.
Beyond the lawsuit, I'm convinced that when you invest money, a natural economic thing that comes up is you are looking at revenue generation.
True.
Now, when you get revenue generation, it gives you the window to use the money for whatever you want to.
True.
Now, my take is this. If these people invest this money in the local economy, grassroots economy particularly, they get this revenue. They still have that window to go on whatever luxury campaign they want to embark on. Now, in that regard, it is only convenient to say that when government enacts stiffer laws against capital flight, it, among other things, encourages local investment of this money, which on its own motivates whoever is responsible for social amenities like good road network and what have you to do that. Shouldn't that be the focus? Bearing in mind that what we have at present, nobody, or those who have those who are saddled with the responsibility to ensure this infrastructure development are not doing it. Shouldn't we take this approach to see if this will be done.
All right, thank you very much. You see, that is, I was even coming to that before you took those words. Now, there need to be stiffer measures enacted. That is one factor. Because like I told you, it will be very difficult under normal circumstances or the prevailing circumstances now to have these individuals who have blindly looted the economy to say, okay, they will come back. It takes patriotism on the one hand, and it takes very diligent business dexterity to be able to invest in an economy and grow in that economy. Now, you will agree with me that most of these individuals who have looted, if they had that sound business mind, they will not even bother looting in the first instance. So now, as it is in this manner, all we need to do is to have a closed box system, so that if we couldn't have been able to avert looting or stealing or corruption in the first instance, then at least we should now make it stiffer or more difficult for the proceeds of corruption to escape from the shores of this country. At least then you are now closer to getting your targets or mopping back the resources. Then, if that is achieved, on the one hand, that is the closed box system where our financial systems are so tight that you cannot move with cash either electronically or physically. You know, if we achieve that in the first instance, and then you now have all of these funds trapped in here, you now have two things. You understand? Either this way or that way. Now, within Nigeria, you know that people have also devised ingenious means of hiding stolen funds. We've heard of those who hid them in septic tanks. We've heard of those who hid them in farmlands. We've heard of a lot. And soon, we might discover that some people might even be hiding money maybe in between tiles. I'm not saying under the tiles. In between, they might manufacture their own tiles and put money inside. So they keep on evolving new strategies. So even if we say we now put that tight financial system to ensure that our funds don't move out, then we now have to contend within. Now, in contending within, I will advise, much as we frown against corruption, and we should not in any way encourage corruption in future times. But what has been done, and the past cannot be effectively corrected, especially with the manner or the system, the anti-corruption fighting system we have on ground. And if we cannot correct that past, then there should be legislations in place, legislations that can make for the reintegration of these stolen funds into the system. We heard that people came to refund monies they've stolen and so on and so forth. We don't have clear figures on that, you know. But if there can be, let's say, and I'm not supporting looters in any way, but those who have looted, because now you are between Sila and Charities, you're on the horn of dilemma. Head or tail, you lose as a nation. So if these guys go and hide the money like the man who hid his talent in the Bible, if they go and hide the money might remain there and rot, and nobody might even discover it. And it will become a historical loss for the nation. Even treasure hunters will never find such monies because, like I said, they have ingenious ways of hiding this money. So there should be an amnesty for looters, and there should be a timeline, and that is what some of us expected Mr. President to have done as soon as he took over the mantle of leadership. Okay, from this period to this period, these things have happened. The economy is in shambles. How can we now pick up the economy? Whatever you have, let's all come together, let's put all hands on deck, and let's invest in the system and make our economy grow. And then there is that red line drawn therefrom. Then anybody who engages in corruption, I think you go in for it just like they do in China. I think in China they execute them. You know, we saw the situation in South Korea also, and so many other countries that frown at corruption. Like you rightly stated, there is corruption everywhere. But the systems of fighting corruption and the systems of making sure there is a closed circuit system where finances don't go outside that
The
system
system.
easily,
Where finances
particularly
are domiciled
within the system
Within
to
the
make these systems grow.
Bro, beautiful. I will hold you on that thought, and because we are about going on a short break. When we return, I would like to ask, what do you think is the implication of getting corrupt persons, seizing their properties, and in some cases proscribing these properties and throwing those who are gainfully employed by these corrupt persons into the labor market? Let's hold on that thought. When we return from this short break, we'll continue from there.
Welcome to Living Treasures Academy. Enjoy conducive and serene learning environment. Qualified and experienced teachers. Equipped computer laboratory and library. Secured atmosphere. Extracurricular activities. And all-embracing curriculum for total development of the child. Comprehensive education for leadership. Join us today from crèche to secondary levels. Living Treasures Academy, committed to excellence.
Welcome back. This is Head On Television Nigeria. We are reaching you live from Abuja, Nigeria. I'm still with my guest, Mr. Solomon Adodo. Mr. Solomon, back to the question I asked before we went on break. It reminds me of Cosmo FM in Enugu. Back in the days when I was in Enugu. Cosmo FM was the best radio station east of the Niger. But it was allegedly owned by a politician who was clamped down by the EFCC under the leadership of his former chairman, Nuhu Ribadu. Sadly, when Cosmo FM found itself on the wrong side of the law, the station was shut down and many persons lost their jobs. The ripple effect is that homes, some marriages were destroyed as a result of that incident. Lives were shattered. People were thrown back to the labor market, and per capita income of those who work in there was also affected. How do we avoid such situation in the overall drive to make Nigeria a corruption-free society?
Well, I want to say that for me as a citizen, anything that will deprive people of their livelihood, I stand totally against that. Anything that will throw people off their jobs, I do not want that. And I don't think any patriotic citizen will also want that. Now, to that extent, we will also say that in the fight against corruption, we should have systems that manage the whole fight from start to finish. When you talk about asset recovery, when you talk about business sustainability, when you talk about the welfare of those who are affected by the proceeds of corruption. Now, those individuals who were working, they have a right to be employed in those enterprises. Of course, they were not told that this is a proceed from corruption or so on and so forth. And we know today in Nigeria that in most instances, you are tagged as corrupt because of your political affiliation. And this has been the case from the time of Nuhu Ribadu, when we know that the then president, Olusegun Obasanjo, went after those who were his perceived enemies. In the time of President Goodluck Jonathan, the same thing happened. And presently, also in this dispensation, we know that some individuals who had corrupt cases, when they switched camps, they also had lesser burdens of corruption hung on their neck. So to that extent, we will now see that there should be a system. If we have a firm, for instance, there is a hotel somewhere in Abuja, it's called Bifina Hotel. It was functioning, but they said the individual was corrupt, and they shut down that hotel, and the hotel is in ruts now, and the staff no longer in the employ. Now, if we have such a hotel or a system for managing investments in the fight against corruption, All they need to do, that system, just like how AMCOM operates, we could devise this up. Such system or such an agency or such a department, maybe under the existing FCC, ICPC or whatever, can come in there, continue to manage the system or manage the business enterprise, or allow the owner of that business enterprise to continue to manage it and remit back to government all that he has stolen. Because the main thing is, you stole such an amount of money, the government is interested in recovering this money. The government is not interested in, okay, let's crumble this building. Just like how we used to have cases, maybe you had items which were banned, brought into the country, but they were not substandard. And then as the government should go and start burning and destroying them. Today, if such items find their way into the country, they take them to IDP camps. And of course, it helps those people and reduces the burden of feeding and other logistics on the government in terms of taking care of the IDPs. So the same can also be placed. We have a system, your interest is let us recover what was stolen. You compute, how much did this man steal? This is a business concern that is generating funds. As the funds are being generated, it is still being remitted back to government. The people who are in the employment of such business will still be employed. They will be earning their living, and then of course it will still add to the credibility of government. It will still add to reputation or the achievements of government, that they could still keep people in employment.
Okay, that brings me to the next point. How do we rejig the legal system to give room for the coexistence of dirty money and economic growth at the grassroots especially?
The truth is this. First, there must be proper. They end up being blown into prison. Whereas they might have done what they did out of patriotic zeal, and of course by the sidelines, a quest to earn some little funds for themselves. By my inquiries as a civil rights activist, as someone who goes around the nation, I know of cases of monies that have been reported to the EFCC, and the EFCC is not doing anything. And I can authoritatively tell that perhaps they might have gone to negotiate, and I'm saying it on TV and I'm saying it on the EFCC, can come and I'll show them. You understand? No action was taken. So now, if you are saying individuals who have stolen and who have stashed this money, there is money everywhere in this country, don't doubt me. There is money stashed everywhere in dollars, in pounds, in euros. Naira is not even something to talk about. You understand? There is money, not even talking about the ones that have found their way outside the country, within this country. But how to get these individuals to come and invest, and they have confidence that, okay, if legislations are in place, so okay, if you've stolen money from such a time to such a time, bring it, so long as you can effectively put it into the system, then we don't go after you. If that is what we want, to see the system grow, then so be it. But then it should be on a clear-cut line of honesty and sincerity of purpose, and that there will be no double standards.
Oh, it's been a wonderful session with Mr. Solomon Adodo. Mr. Solomon, I most appreciate you. Thank you for coming on today's show. Building healthy, equitable local economies isn't the work of a single leader or organization. It requires an ecosystem of individuals and institutions to come together, understand their relationships to each other, and choose to collaborate. Studies have found that local ownership and local production of basic needs builds greater equity, health, and well-being. Evolving from me to we thinking while increasing community capital and aligning public policy are required to get us there. Rural areas constitute the basic and most important segment of the Nigerian population. The rural population contributes tremendously to overall national development. Therefore, it is imperative to put the necessary machinery in place to ensure the domiciliation of stolen funds. That has been heard on today. Many thanks to all who took part in making today's show successful. To my viewer, you are the hero of today's show. Thank you for being here. And to my guest, Solomon Adodo, thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you for having me here.
Until I come your way again tomorrow, let's continue the conversation on our various social media handles. I am your host, Bennet Joshua, saying thanks and bye for now.